We may be the only questioners in the universe, the only ones who have come to understand the astonishing dynamics of cosmic evolution. If we are not, if there are others who know, it is unlikely we will ever encounter one another. We are also, whether we like it or not, the dominant species and the stewards of this planet. If we can revere how things are and can find a way to express gratitude for our existence, then we should be able to figure out, with a great deal of work and goodwill, how to share the earth with one another and with other creatures, how to restore and preserve its elegance and grace, and how to commit ourselves to love and joy and laughter and hope. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit to join in our hymn number 194, Faith is a Forest.
Hello. We're out here on the rug, so it's a time for all ages. We again are working on getting RE up and going. There'll be more about that during announcements, so we will not be inviting kids up or singing them out after this. But I did want to talk a little bit, and Russ very kindly agreed to help me, just to kind of go over a few of the things we're going to be thinking out about maybe a little bit more deeply as we go through service. So, Russ, what's your favorite thing you did in your summer vacation? Or what is something you really enjoy? What is your favorite thing that happened prior to right now this year, in 2022?
I went to 3 auction items so far, and each one of them was really a lot of fun.
Awesome. Now, thinking about those, and it sounds like you may not be done with auction items, do you have a thing or maybe just a few things that you are really looking forward to in the rest of 2020?
Probably more than 3.
Okay.
But I'm looking forward to going on a mountain climbing adventure in November. So that'll be good.
Fantastic. That sounds amazing. So I am curious, anybody else have something, you can shout it out, something that you really, really loved from the first, it's more than half of the year. I understand that we're more than halfway through the year. But from the first 8 months of the year, does anybody have something they really loved? Yeah.
Beach week with the family.
Nice. Beach week with the family. Thanks, Jim. That's great. Yes, Kate?
George's celebration in June.
George's celebration of life in June. It was a powerful day. It was a wonderful day to be.
Going to Mexico with Marta and some of my other friends to learn Spanish.
Oh, Carol went to, and Marta and some other friends went to Mexico and learned Spanish. Bob, and then Marion, and then Ellen, and then I'm going to move on to the second half of the year. Yes?
Karen and I went to see Funny Girl on Broadway.
Ooh, Funny Girl on Broadway. Awesome. Marion?
My son's engagement in Sonoma.
Oh, Marion's son got engaged in Sonoma, California. Beautiful. Ellen?
Leading a pilgrimage to Ireland again after COVID.
And the pilgrimage to Ireland after COVID. I know there are other things that you have, but we want to. What about, here's your other chance to share. If you didn't get to share already, or if you did, what is something in the second half of the year that you're really looking forward to? Or the last 4 months of the year? Gal? Driving down to Florida to have Thanksgiving with your mom. Have you not been able to go in recent? Okay. Wow. Okay. First big family Thanksgiving in 3 years. That's going to be amazing. Anything else? 30. Oh. Oh. Karen and Steve are leaving for France on Wednesday. Everyone hit them up for their cheese requests to bring home right now. Kate.
I'm going on a cruise in late October, and I will sprinkle some of George's ashes in Greece.
Wow, awesome. Kate, I hope that's an amazing cruise, and I know that your plan to bring George to all these places of joy and love is going to be really special. So I just wanted us to be thinking in that, what did we do? This is kind of a harvest service. We're not always August doesn't always feel like harvest time, but it is. It is when the harvest begins, is after the midpoint of summer. And I just want us to think a little bit more deeply about the things that we carry with us and the work we did in the first half of the year. I asked you to name joyful things because I think sometimes in the moment, thinking about the things that we did that we love and the things that we're going to do that we love help us, steady us in those times when in the present we are maybe not doing something we love. Sometimes the case. So thank you for helping me out and reflecting on this today.
Our reading today is Gate 4 by Naomi Shihab Nye. Wandering around the Albuquerque airport terminal, after learning my flight had been delayed for hours, I heard an announcement. If anyone in the vicinity of Gate A4 understands any Arabic, please come to the gate immediately. Well, one pauses these days. Gate A4 was my own gate. I went there. An older woman in full Palestinian embroidered dress, just like my grandmother wore, was crumpled on the floor, wailing. "Help," said the flight agent. "Talk to her. What is her problem? We told her the flight was going to be late, and she did this." I stooped to put my arm around the woman and spoke haltingly. "Shu daw'a, shu bid'uk, habit, shanai shuwe, min fadlik, shu bitzawi." The minute she heard any words she knew, however poorly used, she stopped crying. She thought the flight had been canceled entirely. She needed to be in El Paso for major medical treatment the next day. I said, "No, we're fine. You'll just get there later. Who is picking you up? Let's call him." We called her son. I spoke with him in English. I told him I would stay with his mother till we got on the plane and ride next to her. She talked to him. Then we called her other sons just for fun. Then we called my dad, and he and she spoke for a while in Arabic and found out, of course, they had 10 shared friends. Then I thought, just for the heck of it, why not call some Palestinian poets I know and let them chat with her? This took up 2 hours. She was laughing a lot by then, telling of her life, patting my knee, answering questions. She had pulled a sack of homemade mamoul cookies, little powdered sugar crumbly mounds stuffed with dates and nuts, from her bag, and was offering them to all the women at the gate. To my amazement, not a single woman declined one. Mine either. It was like a sacrament. The traveler from Argentina, the mom from California, the lovely woman from Laredo, we were all covered with the same powdered sugar and smiling. There is no better cookie. And then the airline broke out free apple juice from big coolers. And 2 little girls from our flight ran around serving it, and they were covered with powdered sugar. And I noticed my new best friend, by now we were holding hands, had a potted plant poking out of her bag, some medicinal thing with green furry leaves, such an old country tradition. Always carry a plant, always stay rooted to somewhere. And I looked around that gate of late and weary eyes, ones I had thought, this is the world I want to live in. The shared world. Not a single person in that gate, once the crying of confusion stopped, seemed apprehensive about any other person. They took the cookies. I wanted to hug all those women too. And this still happens anywhere. Not everything is lost.
It is a hot July night in 1981, and I am laying on my back on the forest floor. My clothes are damp, there's only a small corner of tarp under my head, and all around me I can hear the noises of the woods, most of which are completely mysterious to my suburban ears. In 1981, I was 9 years old. Never have I been more keenly aware, sleeping outside with other girls at summer camp, having been caught without our gear on the far side of the lake after thunderstorms tossed our tiny canoes. Never before have I felt so very small. Perhaps if I had my bedroll with me, but it was with my cabin's gear on the other side of the lake. And maybe if there was a good friend at my side, but it was my first year as a camper, at a camp that had been a part of my family's history since the 1950s. So there were a lot of expectations placed on me and a lot of history weighing around me, but I hadn't made any friends yet. And when I was 9, I was pretty shy. All that family reputation was a lot to carry, and that was another reason for me to feel tiny in the face of all of it. Tiny and cold and pitiful. That's how I felt. And also more than a little scared. But after a while, I heard soft voices from the direction of our campfire, which our counselors had eventually gotten going even out after the rainstorm. We'd even managed to make s'mores, so clearly not all was wrong with the world. Since I wasn't sleeping and had no real hope of doing so anytime soon, I got up and went to the fire. I moved quietly and sat close, drying and warming myself. And after a few minutes, watching the sparks rise from the fire, I looked up. For the first time in my life, I could see the band of the Milky Way. There was all the warmth of the fire beside me, and far above me spun so many stars, so many suns, so many other worlds as to make me and my world feel very small indeed. After a while, though, staring up at those impossibly distant neighbor stars, I found myself feeling at home. Still small, of course, but no longer the only one. Compared to all that, I mean, we're all pretty small. I was warmer, drier, I had s'mores in my tummy, and I had found companionship in the soft voices and in the sparks and in the boundless stars. You've heard me talk before about how one of my personal holy days in the year is July 2nd, the exact midpoint, the 183rd day of the year. And we had that almost 2 months ago. And then at the beginning of August, we had the Gaelic Festival of Lunasa, a celebration of the start of harvest. It's the approximate midpoint between the summer solstice and the autumnal equinox, which of course we are drawing closer to by the day. Now, all the work done up to this point in the year in this hemisphere has prepared for this moment, for the coming harvest and for the first harvests that have already begun. The fields that rested in winter, that were turned and sown in spring, that have grown and flourished in summer with tending and care are now ready for the harvest. These are human celebrations and human instruments. We name the time it takes for the earth to describe a single orbit. We learn the seasons and the best time to plow and to plant, to harvest, and to rest. However, we don't learn alone. All the chorus of nature joins in to show us where we are in the year, what work lies ahead, and what's gone before. The high echoing sounds of the cicadas, the drone of bees, the feel of the sun and the rumble of afternoon thunder tell us when it is, even in the absence of calendar or clock. We're part of something larger here. Something that can, of course, make us feel quite small, like looking up at the stars or considering another year moving around the sun. It can all get a little overwhelming. What am I, just one small being, to do with all the work of that part of the year that has gone before me, with all that is to come? In Naomi Shihab Nye's poem, we're asked to consider the small gestures and generosities that enrich our lives each and every day, both when we receive them and when we give them. And in our chalice lighting, we heard words from Ursula Goodenough. We should be able to figure out, with a good deal of work and goodwill, how to share the earth with one another and with other creatures, how to restore and preserve its elegance and grace, and how to commit ourselves to love and joy and laughter and hope. From our poet Nye, we hear, "This is the world I want to live in, the shared world." Not a single person in that gate seemed apprehensive about any other person. This can still happen anywhere. Not everything is lost. Now that is a lot to hold. Are humans expected to figure out how to share, preserve, and honor the earth and cultivate love and joy and laughter and hope? And are we also expected to create a shared world with other humans who are the ones who messed up the earth so badly in the first place? Well, speaking as a representative human, I'd like to try. Looking at the work of this year and of our own lives, this can seem like a truly daunting task. How am I supposed to go experience the wonder and joy of nature, to honor the earth and all it provides, when I'm stuck smack in the middle of the 24-hour news cycle? When I'm being asked daily to panic about new things and ignore the things I panicked about the day before? How am I supposed to do any of this and all the 1,000 other things I need to care for my own family and myself and my community? What sort of harvest am I supposed to glean from all of this? I'm just one tiny person. It's an interesting word, tiny. It feels like what it is, small and maybe a little bit cute. We do that sometimes. We conflate smallness with cuteness. And another dangerous thing we do is conflate cuteness and smallness with weakness. Small things can be very strong indeed. We're talking about harvest, and in many churches where they are addressing this, you may expect to hear the parable of the mustard seed, which I think we may have some familiarity with, at least culturally. But I'd like us to consider another kind of seed this morning. I'd like us to look at the impossible idea of all that we are asked to do to honor the earth and each other, to take stock of the work we have done and gather up what we have planted. And instead of thinking about a mustard seed, I'd like us to think about a dandelion. Not just any dandelion. Not the ones in your yard where you don't want them. Not even the ones that have gone all white and puffy, just begging you to blow on them and scatter the seeds to the wind, even though they'll probably wind up in your yard. I'd like to ask you to consider the task of that determined dandelion pushing their way up through concrete. It's a little ironic, me using tales of growing things to illustrate any point whatsoever, considering how hard it is for me to keep a plant alive. But our dandelion is not just any plant. It is a tiny being determined to make its way in the world despite the obstacles placed before it. Maybe our faith is those tiny white seeds born in the air. My personal faith is not in an outside force or destiny that would guide those airborne seeds to a specific landing spot, but rather in the potential within the seeds themselves. The potential within every single one of us may be tiny, but it is powerful. One of humanity's greatest science communicators, Carl Sagan, wrote a single novel among all his other work. That novel, Contact, is about many things: humanity's first contact with an alien civilization, the ways that we have and lose contact with one another, and the hopes and fears we all confront. And in it, he writes, "For small creatures such as we, the vastness is bearable only through love." It's the love in the face of vastness that Naomi Shihab Nye illustrates so joyfully in Gate A4. Written in a post-9/11 world by an American poet of Palestinian heritage, there is a vast fear dancing just beyond the edges of this poem. The reflection of the joy of human connection serves to remind us that we are each more than part of the problem. We each carry the potential to be part of the solution. Not in vast ways, perhaps, but a solution for someone somewhere. We may each carry answers to questions that we haven't even realized others are asking. And we'll never know if we stay too scared to reach out. All this talk of nature, of the cosmos and of the earth, the grandeur of what we call nature, and here's a question that you may have an answer to that I don't myself. Why is it so hard for us to remember that we are a part of that glorious nature that we so admire? When I look at a sunset or a mountain lake or a sky full of stars, I fill with a sort of breathless awe. Yet how often do I fill with that same awe when I look at other humans? Not often enough, I'm afraid. But it's beautiful stories such as Nye's that remind me how wonderful we can be with each other. We are small creatures in many ways, and in other ways we are larger than measure. And in a lot of ways, size is immaterial. Tell the dandelion pushing through concrete that she should be much larger, and I think you might hear her laughing. We love one another. We love our world. And at this pausing point of the year, as this slope into the latter half of the year, my most important request of all of you, of myself, of all of us together, is to examine the way that those loves are similar. May we behold the wonder of each other all together. May the rest of the year be a fruitful harvest for you, and may we close the year in peace. So may it ever be. And now I will invite us to rise in body or spirit for our well-loved hymn, Blue Boat Home.
Still
Please join us in extinguishing our chalice and your home chalices, if you have them lit, with these words: "We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again."
Beloved community, we have reached the end of our worship and the beginning of our service going into the week. Take love and the kindled flame of our faith with you in your hearts as you move out into the world. For all of the struggles that it may involve, keep in mind those joys behind you and before you as well, to seek what we may harvest. So may it be.